Today I'm going to be talking about securing that go-to Magento developer for your Magento store. It's a little bit easier said than done, isn't it, sometimes, and there's a lot of options out there, different paths you can follow to try and secure that Magento developer for your store. So today I'm going to cover some of those options that you've got and talk about the different aspects of how each work and some of the advantages, some of the disadvantages that I see in using those particular options. And then finally I'm going to cover what we offer at Developer Connection and how that compares to the other options out there and how we can offer a really great way for you to secure that go-to developer for your store. So let's start with looking at some of the other options out there and have a little discussion about what's good and bad about those options. So the first thing we'll talk about is Freelancer networks. So these are services like Upwork, Freelancer, Guru, these kind of services where you can go on and you can post your project and have developers apply and put in a proposal. You can then view the proposals and you can decide if you want to work with any of the developers on your particular store or project. So there are definite downsides to these kind of services, but there are upsides as well. So let's talk about upsides first. So the first upside is choice. You're almost guaranteed to get quite a lot of developers apply for your particular project. So it does mean that you've got a lot of applications and a lot of proposals to look through, and that choice, is never a bad thing. But the flip side to that coin is that you'll regularly find that the applications and the proposals are pretty slim on detail, and they are pretty, well, for lack of a better word, poor, to be honest. You're not going to find on there with any regularity developers with your years of experience and Magento development talent that has been practiced day in day out in a real work environment for a long period of time. So generally the most experienced developers are not really going to be on these kind of networks, and they're not going to be looking for work there because they know that the developers that are on there, they often are catering for projects where the main driving factor is absolute minimum budget. And there's a time and a place for these kind of projects. If you've got a limited budget, this may be somewhere that you want to look. But I would just say be aware that the quality you're likely to achieve for the work that's completed through these freelancer networks is likely to be questionable, and it may not be long-term work. So you may find that down the line, after it's been completed or even during, but at some point you're probably going to run into some issues and you're probably going to have that work rebuilt, at least part of it, and developed in a way which is correct and following best coding standards and so on. So yes, there's going to be choice on there, but the quality of the applications are going to be really slim on details. You're not really going to have much detail of each developer to go by, and that's going to cost you time, isn't it, really? So therefore you have to glean what information you can from what you're given by each developer, and then decide if you want to follow up with any of those developers and talk to them further about your project, with no real guarantee that you know whether they have that skill and experience that you're looking for. So that's the freelancer networks. There's the good side to them, really, to summarise, is choice. The main downside really is questionable quality. The second option I want to talk about is job agencies. So I'm not talking about affiliated agencies, affiliated Magento development agencies. I'm just talking about standard job agencies who will quite often carry Magento developers on their books. Now these are quite a popular option for many companies if they want to find a particular developer or someone to do anything really in their company. They'll go to the relevant agency and they'll ask if they have anyone on their books who can fulfill their requirements and their needs. And the same is true for Magento developers. There are many different Magento developers on these agencies, and actually you will find that on these agencies you typically will have developers who are more established, who have high quality work, who have proven skills and experience over years, and you will get good quality work through agencies typically. I'm not saying that's always going to be the case, but for the most part you're going to look at a much higher quality of work and a much longer period of experience for each developer when compared to the freelancer networks. So it's a good option in terms of quality and experience, and finding a developer who has both of those and can bring both of those to your store and to your project. But it has one really big downside, and that is the fee that the agency itself charges, and that fee is really quite significant in most cases. It may be for you're in a position monetary wise where the fee the agency is going to charge you is not too much of a problem, but if you don't have to pay it, then why would you really? And also agencies will do things like they will lock you into only working through them and only communicating with that particular developer for a set period of time, and you can't communicate outside, or you can't sort of agree work more accurately outside of the actual agency, so you're kind of locked into using them for that period of time. And while that's not necessarily an issue for everybody, I think for some people that's can be certainly an off-putting factor. And actually I've talked to a fair few companies who find working through an agency, yes, it can land them a pretty good quality developer for the most part, but they can also find themselves in a situation where they feel a bit locked in and a bit restricted to the working method that the agency enforces, and they don't have the freedom they would have working directly with a developer if they could just communicate and work and invoice and all that kind of stuff and manage the project exactly as they normally would if they were outside of the agency. So it kind of forces a certain working method, and it also locks you in to using that agency for that particular developer for probably at least a year. So yes, quality is going to be better through an agency, but the downside is it's at the cost of being locked in to using that agency, paying that agency's fee, being forced to often invoice and work according to the agency's sort of conditions, and you can't use that developer at all outside of that agency for a fairly extended period of time, even after your project may have been completed and you've got another one you want to work on. You liked the developer, they did a good job, but you still can't use them unless you work with them again through the agency. So that's something to bear in mind. It is a good option for some companies, but again, there are definite downsides, and cost is one of them, being locked in is another one. The last area I want to talk about is affiliated Magento agencies. So these are development agencies who are officially affiliated with Magento themselves, and they actually pay quite a hefty fee to Magento in order to be listed as an affiliated developer, and they have to obviously be qualified in certain ways, so they have to do things like have a certain number of certified developers and this kind of thing to enable them, alongside paying the fee, to be listed as an agency on a Magento website. So again, there's upsides and there's downsides. So the upside is quality. You're pretty much going to be guaranteed quality, and you're probably going to be pretty much guaranteed good response time and good development times, purely because of the downside, which is the cost. So for the vast majority of companies, I don't think it would be unfair to say that affiliated agency costs are probably going to be prohibitive, to the extent that it makes it unfeasible as an option to have your store developed. For large businesses, they may want to go down this route purely because it's official affiliated agency, and it's an easy option. They don't have to go looking, they've got the money to spend on that development, and it may be a good option in that situation. But anyone from SMBs down to smaller businesses, anything beneath a large business, I would say it's likely to be unfeasible to have your store developed by an affiliated agency. So yeah, an affiliated agency will give you quality, but at a really quite a high cost. As some of you may already know, I'm actually the founder of Developer Connection. Now, this is an idea which I conceived a few years ago now, actually, and I thought about it and I refined it over a fairly long period of time to try and get a service which really catered for a hole in the market in allowing you to find a really good developer at a really good price for your Magento store. So why did I come up with this service? What was the point of it? What does it cater for that's not already out there in the marketplace? Well, throughout this video I've talked often about cost. I've also talked often about quality. So the primary aim and the primary goal of Developer Connection is to bridge that gap between cost and quality and give you both at the same time. So you don't have to just have the cost in order to get the quality, and you don't have to lose the quality in order to get the right cost. So I've talked about freelancer networks, I've talked about job agencies, I've talked about affiliated agencies. The bottom end of the market has low cost, but it has questionable quality. Moving up the market to job agencies, and at the top end affiliated agencies, you're going to get quality, but often you're paying a fee or an overhead that you really don't want to have to if you can possibly help it, because it just adds to the development costs for your project. So Developer Connection is really aimed to cover that middle ground above the area of the market that the freelancer networks cover, so lowest cost project work, but below the top end where you're paying really quite high fees to find a developer through an agency or using an affiliated agency. So cost is one of the key things. We want to keep the cost reasonable for you as a client, but we also want to deliver you quality. So that was a key sort of driving factor, to cover that middle ground between the ends of the market, which isn't really covered at the moment. And we wanted to give you a good choice of developers at a good price that worked for your budget, and it could be a developer that becomes your go-to developer. So we do things a bit differently at Developer Connection compared to other services. So one of the great things that we offer is a really good detailed specs and detailed information about each and every developer that you will find on our network. So we require every single developer to complete a pretty extensive profile. You can view as much or as little of the profile as you want to, but we want to make that information available to you. So there's quite a lot about their work history. There could be a CV attached. There could be all kinds of different details about their work past, what they're doing now, their specific skills, and we want to give you as much information as we can, because that basically means that we can give you the starting point of having the shortlist for your project. So when you create a project, this takes a couple of minutes. It's completely free for you to connect with 5 high quality UK based developers. And once you've created that project, we use automatic matching logic to take the details that you've entered about your project and take the details that the developers have entered about their skills and experience in working with Magento and developing Magento, and we cross-reference the two of those to give you a choice of only the developers which we already know have the skills and experience to actually complete your project and to work on your store. So this is great because it cuts out the work involved in some other options like Freelancer networks. You often have to filter through way too many applications, don't you, to get a short list which even looks half reasonable. With us at Developer Connection, we give you that short list to start with, so we're already saving you time. One of the other main things is that we don't charge anything. We don't charge any overhead, so you don't pay anything additional to what the developer charges. What they charge is completely 100% of what you pay, so we don't charge anything. We just want to provide a genuinely useful, a genuinely good service that you can think of your go-to service to go and find a Magento developer for your project. And what we want to do is to give you that connection to that developer, and for that developer to become your go-to developer. So that's our aim really at Developer Connection. We don't charge you anything. We give you 5 high quality matches. You start with a short list already. You have detailed specs and detailed skills list of each and every developer, and we don't charge any overhead for any of the work we do. So that's how we compare and how we differ to other options on the marketplace, and our aim is really to give you the quality at a cost which works for your budget, so you can really push your project forward and do as much as you can with the budget that you've got. So creating a project is really simple. If you just go to the home page, there's a button there right in the top right hand corner. Creating the spec for your project, you can add as much or as little information as you like, and you go through, it's completely free. Once you pass through the free checkout, then you go straight to the project and you'll immediately get matched to those 5 developers, and you can look at each profile and you can know that each of those people will have the skills and experience to work on your store. Another thing we do is we just give you contact details, and these are direct contact details, so we don't in any way lock you into using our service to communicate or invoice or say that you can't work with that developer outside of our service or anything that you will find with some of the other options out there. You're completely free to work in whatever way works for your project and works for your business setup, and we want you to have freedom to use our service as and when you want, and when you've got that go-to developer, then we've achieved our goal really. That's what we want to give you, someone who works well on your store, works well with the cost, and works well with the quality that you're looking for. So come and check us out. It's developerconnection.co.uk, and create your project and we'll match you immediately to 5 high quality UK based developers at a budget which works for you. So thanks so much for watching this video. I hope it gave you some useful insight into Developer Connection, why we created the service, how it compares to other options out there, and why it's a really great option for you to use to find that go-to developer for your Magento store. So we'd love to see you on there. It's, as I said before, it's completely free to find 5 high quality UK developers on there, and the matching logic is instantaneous. So get on there and check it out, and we look forward to supplying you with that go-to developer for your store today.